Okay. Yeah. So we're going to jump right into it. The number one thing that we typically look at is the tail. Like, you can see that from a distance. It's going to give you a very good indication of what that dog is feeling. So let's just say that we have a tail that's wagging.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A wagging tail does not necessarily mean the dog's happy. It does not necessarily mean that the dog is friendly. If that tail is wagging, it could mean a variety of things, which we'll talk about. But in general, if you have a dog that's wagging its tail, it's aroused. And what arousal is the dog's excitement or stimulation level, right? So, for example, you might see a dog wagging its tail when they're playing ball, right? That dog is aroused. It's excited about playing ball, right? You might have a dog wagging its tail when it's approached by people. That dog is being aroused by the approach of the people. You might have a dog that's wagging its tail as it's biting a squirrel, right? That dog is aroused because it's in prey drive. You know what I'm saying? So just because a dog's tail is wagging does not mean it's friendly, does not mean that it's happy. It means that it's aroused, okay? In general, if you have a dog's tail that is being held horizontal to the ground, right? Horizontal to the ground and wagging, that generally, in most cases, is going to mean friendliness. Okay? Dog's tail horizontal to the ground, wagging, in general, it's going to mean friendliness. Not in every case. And this brings up a good point. While we're talking about generalities of dog body language today, you do have to take into account the individual dog. Each dog is going to have slight differences in the way that they're maneuvering their body. So while, yes, we're talking about generalities today, you do need to pay more attention to your dog or dogs that you're regularly interacting with to understand their little specific differences. Okay? But anyway, dog's tail horizontal wagging generally is going to mean friendliness. If you see that rear end moving at the same time, the whole rear end's moving back and forth, you know what I'm talking about. That dog is just going crazy. It's shaking its whole body. It can't contain itself. Its tail's wagging. That means friendliness. This is the kind of dog it's okay to approach, right? Interact with them if the owner is okay with that. All right, so let's say that dog's tail is up. A tail that is held upward typically, generally, is going to signal dominance. So that dog is feeling empowered, it's feeling confident, it's feeling dominant, right? If it's wagging and it's up, it's aroused and it's dominant, which could be an indicator that the dog might react at something, it might bite at something. So you just need to be careful with this type of dog. If it's not your dog and you're walking up to a dog and it's doing this, tail up, tail wagging, it might make the decision to react at you. It might make the decision to bite you. It might be okay with your approach. So you just need to take that into account when you're working with dogs, when you're around dogs. Tail that is up is dominant, wagging, it's aroused, has the potential to react, right? Has the potential to react at other dogs, has the potential to react at people, has the potential to react at children. So if you see this dog and they're maneuvering around, tail's up wagging, you probably, if this is your dog, you want to redirect that dog off the situation, call him back to you. Don't let that child walk up to him. Don't let that other dog, continue to interact with them. I mean, sometimes it's okay, right? But your dog might go overboard if it's feeling dominant at the time. So you just need to take that into account. Be aware of that. All right, tail down. So let's talk about if that tail is down below horizontal, maybe it's tucked. All right, if the dog's tail is down or maybe tucked, it's a very strong indicator that the dog is feeling a little bit insecure or a little bit nervous. And the more tucked that tail is, let's say the tail is tucked between the legs or wrapped up along the belly, that dog is super insecure at the time, super nervous, not sure what's going on, not sure what to do, right? So with this type of dog, be very cautious. Number one, you don't want to trigger it into fight or flight mode. You don't want to trigger that, okay? Because if you trigger flight, the dog is going to take off. If it's not your dog or if it's your friend's dog, it could take off. It's going to seek somewhere that it knows is safe. If you're out somewhere strange and nowhere is safe, this dog might just take off, and now it's a wild goose chase to try and get the dog, right? Or you might trigger fight mode. If the dog feels like it's cornered, it has nowhere else to go, it might lash out and bite you. And dogs that are in fight mode, that are insecure or nervous with that tail tucked, a lot of times their bites are super powerful, right? They don't really know the pressure of their bite. They're trying to get away from the situation so they can cause serious damage. So if you see this, don't let your child continue going towards that dog. Don't let your dog keep going towards that dog. You need to take it easy with this dog. Allow it to kind of relax and get comfortable with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something to talk about with the tail, you know, not all dogs have tails that are easy to read, right? Some dogs have dock tails. Some dogs have like no tail. So when you're taking that into account, just make sure that if you see a dog with a dock tail, you can kind of imagine where their tail is at. You know, if they're holding it straight up, again, that's that dominance. If they're kind of lowering it as much as they can, you know, that's going to be that insecurity or nervousness. If it's horizontal, right? It kind of depends on the dog, because some dogs, if they hold the nub, what we call the nub of the dock tail horizontal, imagine there's a legit tail on there. It could come out and then up and then curl over. So just because a dog's holding their dock tail or their nub horizontal doesn't necessarily mean friendliness. But a lot of times dogs with dock tails or no tail, they will compensate more with their rear end. So you can look at their rear end. If the whole rear end is shaking back and forth, that means they're probably friendly, right? If their rear end is tucking down, they're probably a little bit nervous, right? Those kind of things.